Week 10 of the Indoor Football League has concluded. We had some really good games. We're going to be going over all of them today and looking back, or not, looking forward to the Week 11 slate. I'm going to be predicting the games and looking at the spreads. So we'll get started. In the first game of Week 10, the Iowa Barnstormers went to Quad City and barely came out with the victory. These teams have met already this season. It was a close Iowa Barnstormers victory last time, and this time it was a close Quad City victory. The Barnstormers did cover the spread. I did think that Quad City would win this game, but it was really a fight for both teams in this game. Looking at the stats, the Barnstormers started Kyle King at quarterback. He went 16 for 26, 5 touchdowns in the air. He did have 2 turnovers and was sacked 5 times. And that really hurts. 5 sacks is a lot, especially in the IFL. Running back Rob Washington did have 1 touchdown on the ground, but they really had no run game to speak of in this game. The receivers were really good, especially Keyshawn Taylor, CJ Tate, and not Queon Williams. He did not actually play in this game. He's been their number 1 wide receiver, nearly 400 yards this season. He's been doing really good, but he didn't play. Darren Wilson had led with 2 touchdowns, tied with Keyshawn Taylor, and CJ Tate did lead in receptions. The defense was solid. Not really. Except in the secondary. They did have 5 breakups, but they did allow, 57 points to the Steamwheelers. Javon France, 2 breakups. Simeon Gatling, 2 breakups. And Jefferson Fritz, who's been a tackling machine for the Barnstormers, had 1 breakup. Ian McBurrow, who won, I believe he did win Defensive Player of the Week last week, or maybe the week before, did have 8 tackles to lead the team and 1 tackle for loss. Defensive lineman Ty Tate had a really good day, 6 tackles, 2.5 tackles for loss, 1 sack, 1 forced fumble, 1 fumble recovery. He had a really good game. Yes. So, I was looking at the Kyle Kaplan thing, remembering who was the special teams player of the week. It was for the Steamwheelers, but the kicker for Iowa, Gabriel Rue, did have 2 good field goals, and he did miss 1 PAT, but overall a pretty solid day. If he does make that field goal, though, that he missed, it is the difference in the game. Jefferson Fritz, like I said before, tackling monster, but he has also been really relevant in the return game. He actually had his first return touchdown this week. Really good by him. Barnstormers are looking better, I guess. 2 wins. You're 2-6 now. You're probably not going to the playoffs, but there are definitely some bright spots. You then look at the Steamwheelers. Jed Erickson still not starting. Mike Irwin continuing to be that starter. 2 touchdowns in the air and on the ground. He did lose 1 fumble, but that was his only turnover of the day. Irwin has looked pretty solid the past couple weeks. 3 weeks in a row, no interceptions. He hasn't thrown one all year. He has a 10-0 ratio right now. He's been doing pretty good for the Steamwheelers and was able to bring them to win this game. Defensively, a ton of tackles for loss and tackles. You see Malik Owens, the defensive line, just really got after it. Malik Owens, 3 sacks, 4 tackles for loss, and 6 overall tackles. Then Jalen Swan, a scoop and score, and 2 more tackles for loss. And then Keyshawn Moore, 3 tackles for loss, 2 sacks. Great day by the Steamwheelers defensive line. Definitely the most dominant defensive line of the week. I was really impressed by that, and if they can keep that going, I mean, getting pressure on the quarterback, that's so huge, and that will really help them win more games this season. Because I mean, they've looked better. I think Kyle Kaplan, as I talked about earlier, deservedly so won Special Teams Player of the Week. 6 for 6 PATs, 5 for 6 on field goals with a long of 53. That is a fantastic game. Then you look at the return game, another return touchdown. Gerard Harrington's second of the season. 2 kick returns, 77 yards, and a touchdown. Really good game by him. So overall, the Steamwheelers, they're now 4-4. They have a 500 record. They've really turned it on lately. They've had some good weeks. I did think they would win this game, and they did. Next game, the Northern Arizona Wranglers went to the Massachusetts Pirates and got the upset. Massachusetts has played not good football the past 4 weeks. Massachusetts has dropped multiple games. They were 5-0, I believe, and now they've lost 3 games in a row. One of those now to Northern Arizona, which they definitely should have beat at home. And it should have been in a bounce-back spot because last week they lost to one of the worst teams in the IFL standings-wise, the Iowa Barnstormers that we've already talked about. You look at the standings now. Massachusetts is barely in third place. I mean, they're barely above Quad City in those Eastern Conference standings. Northern Arizona, I mean, they're also 5-3, deservedly so. They've been playing really good football. Joshua Jones has been great. Looking at the Pirates, Benefield only played part of the game. I'm not 100% sure. I don't remember if he got hurt or was benched, but I assume he got hurt because he did go 4 for 4. 79 yards and a touchdown. He did lose a fumble off of a sack. And then Dagenhart comes in and throws an interception. I mean, not fantastic quarterback play from Dagenhart coming in after Benefield goes out. But then on the ground, they were absolutely dominant with Jimmy Robinson. That's the only reason they were able to stay in this game. Benefield, definitely one of the top quarterbacks in this league. Jimmy Robinson, maybe number 1 touchdown scorer on the ground right now. I'm not too sure, but this was a huge game for him. He's had multiple big yard games. I mean, 76 yards, 70 yards, and 80 yards. Looking over here, I mean, Tio Redding having the best day wide receiver, receiving-wise, with 3 receptions for 67 yards and a touchdown. But still, I mean, not as great as we've seen them do in the past. This is one of the better receiving rooms in the IFL. And the quarterbacks just weren't really able to take advantage of that because Dagenhart coming in and not having the best day. Defensively, they allowed 41 points. Not a fantastic day, but the breakups were there in the defensive backfield. And then linebacker Calvin Bundage with a pretty solid day, 8 tackles, 3 tackles for loss, and 1 sack. You then look at the Wranglers. Joshua Jones, still really good. I mean, he has been so good this year. 9 touchdowns on the ground, 26 in the air, only 3 interceptions. In this game, he threw for 5 touchdowns. He's been so good this year, and he's definitely a really good surprise as a rookie quarterback in this league, and he could very well lead the Wranglers to a playoff spot this season and maybe pull off an upset. Again, they still don't really have too much of a run game to speak of, but the receiving game, fantastic. John Maldonado had 2 receiving touchdowns off of 6 receptions. Kobe White also had 2 receiving touchdowns. Orsai McCorker wasn't as big as he has been previously. The past 2 weeks, really, he hasn't had huge games like we've seen him do before. He was really explosive to begin the season. I mean, this stretch of 4 games to begin the season was awesome by him. David Elder did also catch a touchdown in this game. Defensively, on the defensive line, you had Tremont Lofton, 6 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, and a sack. The defense was able to force an interception with Travion Banks. And then the King game was all right, but nothing to write home about. And then you look at Northern Arizona. They're 4 still in the standings. They're 5-3. They could definitely make the playoffs. The Gunslingers are really, really trying to push for a playoff spot. If any of these 3 teams were in the Eastern Conference, I think they'd make the playoffs over all of these teams. Probably not over these 3. Maybe the Pirates with the way they've been playing. But these are your definite playoff teams in this conference. Tulsa can push for one. But right now, Quad City is up there with that lead. But all 3 of these teams can be playoff caliber. The Rattlers have not been playing great defense, but they've been really pushing forward the past couple weeks and playing way better football. And then the Wranglers in this game pulling off a really big win that they needed, absolutely needed, to move to 5-3. And then the Gunslingers have been on a tear the past month. Fantastic football being played by them right now. Looking at the third game, Frisco was upset, blown out really, by the Green Bay Blizzard. This game was really close at halftime, and then the Blizzard were just able to completely pull away. You look at the Fighters. TJ Edwards not starting for a second week in a row, and that really hurt the Fighters. Larry Harrington did not have a good day in the air whatsoever. 4 for 12, that is a 33% pass completion percentage. 0 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Not good at all. The defense for the Blizzard really shut him down in the air. Now, on the ground, he was good. 4 rushing touchdowns brings his total to 10, and that's really what this offense is designed to do. And, it did that well, but you just don't have the same passing threat as you do when you have TJ Edwards. And the Blizzard can score points with Max Myler. More work on the ground. Martez Carter, 70 yards and a touchdown off of just 8 carries. And then again, nothing at all out of the wide receivers because, you have Dagenhart going 4 for 12, only 56 yards and 2 interceptions. Linebacker Royce C., 14 tackles, monster game, 3 tackles for loss. Defensive back Ethan Castleberry, 10 tackles. But they let the Blizzard score so many points, especially in that second half, to make it a blowout game. Bryce Crawford did make a 52-yard field goal, but, not really enough at all. The Fighters are falling in the standings, I believe. Yes, they're now 4th, which isn't horrible at all. And, they've still only lost 2 games. They lead the East still. They're one of the best teams, especially with TJ Edwards, but that's not a great loss to have. You look now at the Green Bay Blizzard. Max Myler, 5 total touchdown game. Another one. He's been fantastic this year. He's been one of the better quarterbacks on the ground this season. 0 fumbles lost, only 3 interceptions, and 17 rushing touchdowns. He's been really good ever since coming back to Green Bay. He started there last year, split time with Jerome Johnson, now he's back, and he's been really good. The run game, also really good for the Blizzard. 2 great run games in Frisco and Green Bay. E.J. Burgess was able to rush for 4 touchdowns and 85 yards, but he did do it off of 19 carries. Demetrius Moore did catch both touchdowns by Myler in this game and had 77 receiving yards. The defense was really, really able to shut down Frisco in the second half. And whenever you don't have a passing attack at all, you can really just focus on that run game. And that's really what they were able to do. The interceptions, one was by Ravarius Rivers, his first of the season, and another one by Lakevius Daniel, also his first of the season. This was his first game played this season with the Blizzard. So again, huge game and win for Green Bay this week. I know this video is a little late, but excuse me. But I just really needed to get this out of the way and talk about all of these games. Next, the Tulsa Oilers went to the Gunslingers and lost. The bookmakers saw this coming. I saw this coming. It wasn't really too big of a surprise. Tulsa's been really inconsistent, and the Gunslingers are one of the hottest teams in the IFL right now. San Antonio was just really able to pass the ball all over Tulsa with Sam Castronova. I was also looking at the statistics compared to the official IFL statistics. So the way I do this is I look at the box score stats on the websites for the teams after every single game, and I just put that in and then add them up, and my numbers are like 1 or 2 off standing or completions and attempts wise and yards wise from the official website, but it's virtually all the same. I'll try and fix as much of it as I can, but it's basically all the same numbers, really. Sam Castronova had a fantastic week, having a Offensive Player of the Week. He did win that this past week for the second straight week, his third week this season. MVP season. I mean, he really deserves that. Fantastic by him so far. And then 7 more passing touchdowns in this game with 51 yards on the ground. Keyshawn Harper also rushed for 41 yards and a touchdown. Again, he's still spreading out the ball greatly. DJ Myers, 2 touchdowns. Austin Upshaw, 2 more touchdowns. Naquan Murray, lead receiver, 3 touchdowns, 93 yards. You have 3 guys that are already at 300 plus receiving yards, and another one that's only 6 short, but he has 9 touchdowns. This is fantastic. And if you can't defend the pass, you do not want to play the Gunslingers. Now, the defense was able to force a couple interceptions. Clifton Duck and Svan Davenport both forcing interceptions in the secondary for the Gunslingers. The kicking game with T.C. Stevens did miss 2 field goals, but did hit 6 PATs out of 8. And then Khalil Rashad did fumble on one of the kickoffs returned by him. Khalil Rashad did not do too much in the passing game this past week, but he's still the number 2 wide receiver on this team statistically. You look at the Oilers stats, Daniel Smith Daniel Smith did not play this past week. Andre Sale won. I don't know how much that would have changed because Andre Sale did throw for 6 touchdowns. He did throw 2 interceptions, but they really trusted him with 35 pass attempts in this game. That's a lot. That's actually more than Daniel Smith has thrown all season long. His highest was 32 against Frisco, where he did throw 3 touchdowns. But you do lose that rushing threat with Daniel Smith in the backfield. But 6 touchdowns is still pretty solid by Sale. So because of missing out on him, not really a run game, but Montero DeBose was able to catch a touchdown and have 63 receiving yards. Alexis Rosario, 3 touchdowns, and then Jonathan Nance and Travell Cavan both catching touchdowns. The defense, they let up a ton of points to the Gunslingers, but most people do. They are just great at scoring. So another great victory by the Gunslingers, covering the spread. This next game, we get to see Defensive Player of the Week for the Storm in Ranji Basin McCoy. The Storm were able to win against the Jacksonville Sharks, both 1-win teams going into this game. The road team getting the victory in the Sioux Falls Storm, winning by 10 points. Jacksonville just does not look great this year at all. and part of that reason is Fred Payton's turnovers. 2 more interceptions in this game. He has 6 on the year, but a lot of those have come in the past 2 weeks. 4 interceptions in the past 2 weeks. And in that game against Arizona and the Nighthawks, he had 1 in each of those games as well. Tamarian Terry caught 2 of those touchdowns, and then running back Stanley Williams caught the 3rd. Fred Payton Jr. is definitely the quarterback for this team. You look at what he was able to do in their only victory against Tulsa, 5 touchdowns in the air and 1 on the ground. He can be really good. He just has to fix the interception problem that he's had. The defense didn't do too much, but Tyler King was able to return a kick in this game for a touchdown. Storm-wise, Lorenzo Brown Jr. is still starting, and he had a great game. The ground game threat was not really there, and now Billy Hall hasn't played in the past 2 games, but Brown was able to throw for 6 touchdowns, which, really good by him. He's still got it. He's been really good, and now has led the Storm to their 2nd win of the season. Not much of a ground game. Bryson Dinley did catch 2 touchdowns for the Storm, and Keyshawn Williams did run for 1 and catch another one. So 3 of those touchdowns by Lorenzo Brown to the running backs, 2 more to wide receiver Drayshawn Hudson, and the final one to Carlos Thompson. The defense, they were definitely able to beat the Sharks. They beat them by 10 points, allowed 42 points. Defensive line didn't get a ton of pressure, but DeJohn Emery was able to come away with a sack. Elijah Reed led the team with 10 tackles, and Mason McCoy, 2 interceptions, both interceptions on Peyton, and 7 tackles and a forced fumble. Really good week by him. Looking at this 3rd to last game, you see the Bay Area Panthers handedly defeating the Arizona Rattlers. Bay Area was +3 in this game. I predicted Bay Area to win this game, and they were definitely able to do so. That is a 16-point victory, I believe. You look at the Panther stats. Daquan Neal, still quarterback, still doing great. 6 for 8, 90 yards, 3 touchdowns. Half his completions were touchdowns. Then a third of his rushes were touchdowns. He is a touchdown machine. He's been fantastic this year. In this game, he was able to dominate the Rattlers. Looking at the run game with Shane Simpson, 3 more rushing touchdowns. Great ground game by the Panthers. Wide receiver J.T. Stokes caught all 3 of Neal's touchdowns in this game for 90 yards. Only 2 guys caught passes in this game, and they were both receivers, Jazari Peterson and J.T. Stokes, but J.T. Stokes got most of the receptions, and they still were not able to lock him down. 6 catches, 3 touchdowns. Actually, J.T. Stokes was the only person to catch passes in this game. Jazari Peterson only had 2 carries. They were not able to stop Stokes nor the run game. And Bay Area just looks so dominant, and that's why they're back to that number 1 spot in the power rankings. Looking at the defense, they were able to just break the Rattlers. The Rattlers just really couldn't compete in this game. You could definitely tell who the better team was, but it was supposed to be Dalton Snead's revenge game. He did have 6 total touchdowns. I would not say it's his fault that they lost. 0 turnovers, 3 in the air, 3 on the ground, nearly 200 passing yards. The defense just wasn't really able to stop them at all. Running back Shannon Brooks had a touchdown on the ground and through the air. And the defense, again, not able to stop the dominant run game, nor really the pass game of Daquan Neal. 16-point victory for the Panthers. Looking up here, Panthers back to the number one spot. They were only out of it for 2 weeks, and now they've been, consistently thought of as the best team in the IFL by the coaches in their coaches poll. They are leading the Western Conference, barely beating the Nighthawks out for that first spot after the Nighthawks did win in that game. But that was also because that they started Felix Harper, which, I've said I strongly disagree with that decision. But, it is what it is. That game's already over, and they'll play again. That's going to be a big matchup, and maybe the Western Conference final to go to the championship game. The next game, the Nighthawks actually lost their first game to go to second place, like I talked about, in the Western Conference, to the one-win Sugar Skulls. The Sugar Skulls, it is not loading. There we go. The Sugar Skulls started Malik Mitchell. He's been back for 2 weeks. He's fantastic. I love watching him. The Fair State alum. 2 touchdowns in the air. He did throw 1 interception, but he did have 2 more on the ground. Running back Mike Jones had 2 more on the ground. This rushing game, 4 total touchdowns. That hurts, especially if you're the Nighthawks, 7-0 Nighthawks, going to a 1-win team and losing that game. His number 1 wide receiver was Brian Smith, who caught both of his touchdowns. The defense was able to get some really big stops in this game. Ahmad Lyons was able to force an interception. Robert Sheffield led the team with 9 tackles, a tackle for loss, a breakup, and then Kenneth Durden with 2 breakups in this game. MJ Harris, they kicked it short to him in this game. He just picked it up and ran straight to the touchdown. 22 yards. A little squib kick, and MJ Harris definitely took advantage of that and took it to the house. Huge win by the Sugar Skulls. And one more thing I want to talk about with the Sugar Skulls. Their schedule is brutal for the rest of the season. They've only won 2 games. And that's probably a loss. That will probably be a win. They do play Duke City twice. But even if they are able to win both of those games, that's only 4 wins. Then you have Bay Area, Frisco, San Diego, Arizona, San Antonio, and Vegas again. You're not beating Vegas again. I don't know if your offense can score with San Antonio. The Rattlers you could upset. San Diego, that's a tough one. Frisco, that's a tough one. And then Bay Area, fantastic. And Northern Arizona in their next game. That's so tough. That schedule is brutal to end the season. And really, this whole season has been pretty tough of a schedule for the Sugar Skulls. Now looking at the Nighthawks. Jerome Johnson had 2 turnovers in this game. He did have 4 total touchdowns, but he was out after he threw a deep interception in this game. They put in George Reyna. And Reyna did have 2 rushing touchdowns. He did throw a deep touchdown pass that was dropped, but I do believe they still scored on that drive. The reason the Sugar Skulls were able to win this game is because they went for 2 in overtime to win the game. And it was, great decision there because, obviously it paid off and they won. Running back Antonio Wimbush did rush and receive a touchdown. But, at the end of the day, it just wasn't enough at all for the Nighthawks. I don't know if you win if you keep Johnson in there, but I don't understand taking him out. It's a close game. Johnson does throw an interception. He's already lost a fumble, but he is the better quarterback between the two, and I think that's pretty obvious with the uh, touchdowns he has thrown and ran for, plus the rushing yards he has. And he already has, I mean, he barely broke it, but already has 1,000 passing yards. And then this final game, Duke City went to San Diego and got demolished. Duke City, I've been talking about Joe Mancuso last week. I really hyped him up. And then this week he throws 4 interceptions. Second start in the IFL, 4 interceptions. It happens. But, I mean, it's tough. He did have 5 total turnovers because he did also lose 1 fumble. And, I mean, that's a really tough second game, especially against San Diego. I still believe in him. It's a tough game, but it happens. I expect him to play better against Arizona next week, especially with how that defense has been playing the past month or two. Really all season long, they've let up so many points. I would not be completely surprised if Duke City was able to upset there, but it's going to be tough. Mancuso did throw 2 touchdowns, one to Laughinghouse and the other to Concleaf. The defense, not good, let up a ton of points to the strike force. But that's mostly because Nate Davis threw for 3 touchdowns. Chance Bell rushed for 1, and Trevon Van rushed for 1. 2 of those receiving touchdowns did go to Isaiah Lilly, and another one to Jordan Kress. The defense, I mean, everybody got an interception. Justice King got an interception. Atoa Fox got an interception. Tariq Thompson got an interception that was returned for a touchdown. And then Takorian Brown also got an interception, and he recovered a fumble. I mean, the defense was just, you're not going to win ever throwing 4 interceptions, especially in the IFL. I mean, it could happen, but you're probably not going to win throwing that many interceptions. And I mean, the strike force was able to cover the spread. I probably would have bet the Gladiator spread because of Mancuso. I was over the moon about him last week. But 4 interceptions, that's tough. So now I'm going to do next week's predictions. So Green Bay goes to Iowa. Iowa is coming off of another tough loss. Still only 2 wins. And Green Bay is coming off of a really big win. But I don't see Green Bay losing this game. I'm going to pick Green Bay. Next, Massachusetts needs a win so badly. They've had 4 brutal weeks in a row. They were able to get out of one of those with a win, or maybe it was just a bye week. I don't completely remember, but Tulsa's just been not great. Tulsa could make this close because of how inconsistent they are, and they just lost a pretty big game to the Gunslingers, but I'm definitely going to pick Massachusetts, and the sportsbook agrees. Next, Duke City in Arizona. I think it's going to be closer than 14.5. I definitely do. But I do definitely think Dalton Snead is going to get it done against the Gladiators. Next, San Antonio goes to Bay Area. That's going to be a great game. Duquan Neal, Sam Castronova, 2 of the best quarterbacks in the IFL. We'll see if Castronova can get it done, but I don't think he will. Bay Area is ranked 1 for a reason. Next, Tucson goes to the Wranglers. Wranglers coming off a big win, but so is Tucson. I think Tucson's in that come-down spot, so I will pick Northern Arizona. And then finally, in a 1-point spread, Frisco goes to San Diego. I think Frisco's the better team. I'd probably bet on Frisco, especially if TJ Edwards is back. But it truly does depend on whether or not TJ Edwards is back. Same thing with this for Benefield. If Benefield's not back, I'd probably bet the spread on Tulsa. I still think Massachusetts would win. But Daniel Smith can really score points for Tulsa. Looking at Frisco, if TJ Edwards is back, I'm picking the Fighters. and I don't think he'll be out for 3 weeks in a row, so I'm going to pick Frisco. But the strike force with Nate Davis could definitely get it done. So we'll see how those pan out. Players of the week, I've already mentioned them: Sam Castronova, Kyle Kaplan, and Ranchi Basin McCoy. It was a great week. It's flying by. We've already had so many games covered. So many more to look forward to. Can't wait for this championship game right here. But anyways, still, these are the stats that I have not updated since week 8. I'll probably do that by next video. Hopefully I get it out sooner than I did this one. But thank you for watching. I will be back next week. Goodbye.